My husband's been acting really weird. So he would come home late from work, and then all of a sudden he just quit his job. Until I finally realized the truth. He didn't quit his job. Ugh. Apologies for the formatting as I'm typing this at work on my cellular. Separate apology if I'm not making sense. I just recently learned this happened, and I'm still not thinking clearly. This is an extremely abbreviated version of events, so sorry if you have questions. My husband Barry and I have been married for 3 years. We've been together for 5 years in total, and we're both 31 and have a toddler. We had great jobs and we were really happy. He did not cheat or anything, no emotional affairs, no hiding locations, no secret social media. He had always been a loving husband and great father. Our marriage had the normal ups and downs, and life was hectic in the house, but we had a good marriage, I believe. He was super motivated and always up for adventures or a chill night at home. He was relatively high up in the org chart, working all day, 5 days a week, and seemed to love it and thrive off being useful. It all seems good, right? No, it all started with a small red flag. Barry and I share a car and both work different jobs, and he gets off before me. Because of this, he usually picks me up from work, and on this particular day, I needed him to bring something in from the car for my coworker, and I was in our backstock break room waiting for him to arrive. I'd been clocked out about 10 minutes at this point, and talking to said coworker, this is where things get complicated. I was needed for the counter urgently for a few minutes. Sometime later, my coworker said she overheard a conversation amongst other colleagues who was going to check out the creepy guy standing in the fragrance area. Somebody then piped up saying it's likely Barry waiting for me, and another coworker piped up with, "Well, he's still a creep." From there, I guess a lot of people continued to laugh about it. To my knowledge, he didn't do anything. With the bulk of the people on the shift that day being new employees, he was just sort of quietly messaging me that he had arrived while waiting by the fragrance area, just smelling the fragrances. He used to be fairly quiet and a little awkward, so he wasn't exactly quick to speak, especially around new people. He wasn't even being weird, he was just looking around since I was with a customer and did not want to distract me. I told Barry to wait for me in the car and said I'd be right out. I then talked to the people who said that he was creepy, because I felt it was creepy that they were judging him and not doing their job. I made sure to be as dramatic as possible to make them feel bad. I even said, "I heard you thought Barry was being creepy. Did he do something to make you feel uncomfortable?" I said it nicely so they would feel kinda bad since he most likely wasn't doing anything at all. This is how I went against some of my closest colleagues to defend this man. Well, it wasn't even a few weeks and my husband stopped picking me up from work. I simply noticed that he was coming home 2 hours later than normal with different excuses as to what he was doing at his office every single time. There would always be some excuse as to why he could not come home sooner. One example is that he works with a tight group of people and works 12-hour rotating shifts on and off. So when he hands over the shift to the next guy, there's a bit to go over to catch him up to speed, and this briefing causes a delay, and it's just chapped my hide that he hung around work for over 2 hours instead of coming home. Reading what I'm writing now is making me feel incredibly pathetic. Several times we had made plans to watch a movie together after Nico, our toddler, had gone to sleep, but he would ditch me and claim that he had projects at the office that he needs to complete. It made me angry, frustrated, and quite frankly like crap that I'm not good enough for him. My view was, if you say you're going to do something, you keep your word, but he would just stop answering any text or phone calls. I know, the first concern is that he's cheating or doing something that, in that realm, but I 100% do not think that's what it is. I'm usually the type of person who can tell when somebody's lying to me. I get this itch, and I notice all these tics everyone has. Always asked to face the truth and kept asking my husband for the truth, and he constantly kept lying ever since the beginning. He had his time card hours and all sorts of papers showing that he had been working overtime. Sometimes there would be a 3-hour time gap from when he got off work to when he arrived at home. He would eat dinner, then go straight to our garage and be there the rest of the night. The other day, I was driving down the road on my way home. I saw him parked on the side of the road with another vehicle behind him. He texted me that he was helping another male friend load pots into his car, after which he was going to head over to the next town to pick something up. Well, my gut was telling me something else was going on, but I brushed it off and just assumed that's what he was doing. I started to feel neglected as I was taking care of all the work at home and just sitting there by myself all night. I would ask him if he wanted to do anything and he would just shrug me off and hang out in the garage until I fell asleep. It's hurt me every single time. It felt super disrespectful and I had a lot of time to stew on this. And I really could not figure out why I was having this feeling. I didn't know what about it made me so mad. His dad said I was dramatic and needed to get over it as it was not a big deal, because he, the dad, has been late for 35 years and the mom gets over it. I told him it was a big deal to me. I felt like he was incredibly wrong. I explained it as that's great for them, but that's not me. It only matters to me that Barry comes home and does what he says he will. Well, Barry and I had numerous big fights about it. I was not vicious or mean to him when he came home late, but maybe a little cold. I didn't know how else to act when I was that annoyed. I was constantly complaining about the state of our relationship, but he was rather upset I made more money than him while he was full-time, and I got to, quote, play with slime all day. In a luxury retail store, he said this just to divert the conversation, obviously. I told him I wanted to sit down with his leadership and play the wife-family card to get them to reduce his work. He simply replied that he was trying his best to turn down extra work politely, but his boss would not listen and that the HR at his company was simply not very helpful either. Fast forward a few months to the day before yesterday. Barry came home and dropped the bombshell that he quit his job. He told me that he left his job so that he could get to spend more time with me. He wanted to have a work-from-home job and would take a pay cut if need be. I was concerned a lot, but as I was making enough money from my job, I decided to take a chance. However, yesterday early morning, I received a text from an unknown number out of nowhere that read, "Divorce him and run because he's a creep who got caught following coworkers at night. Sorry, obviously, thought you should know." I did not know how to react. I compared the number from the text with Barry's contact list to see if it was somebody from work. Well, it was. So I called the number immediately to figure out what the heck was going on. A lady, who I'll refer to as Jane, spoke, saying she was Barry's coworker. He doesn't directly supervise her, but she's in his department, and as I began to explain to her what happened at home, she let me know that Barry did not leave his job voluntarily, but was rather fired. Someone my husband works with has come forward and accused him of harassing them. This coworker is senior to him and does not work in his group. She has worked there nearly as long as Barry had, and they just have been friends. She often referred to him as her younger sibling. She's also somebody that I respect. Following this incident, several other coworkers, including Jane, came forward to report him as well for following them at night and straight up creeping them out. He would list most of his female coworkers when they leave, where they live, and if they lived alone. When this issue escalated initially, he was asked by his team lead to say something. Barry essentially said he didn't know. His response was that he did not understand what they were referencing, but we'll talk about it later. That's it. HR said these were worthy of being fired over, and that's what happened. Jane just wanted to warn me about him. I did not ask her for more details. I was so confused, because the person I know would never violate another person's privacy that way. I also did not have any proof that he had ever done anything like that. All I had was their word. Well, It crossed my mind that Jane could just be a jealous, angry, mad coworker who simply hates Barry and makes up accusations against him. It's not only that the particular person who told me about this incident isn't trustworthy, but also nobody else brought it up to me. But if Jane was telling the truth, I could not imagine wanting him in my life if he was capable of something like this. I haven't seen him ever lie to me, but there was a seed of doubt, because she and others went to HR, and I did not think one would make up something like this without any evidence or just a lie. I planned to double-check her story with his office and confirm everything. But before that, I wanted to talk to him about the accusations myself. After a few minutes, I finally gathered the courage to confront him. When going to his room, I overheard him talking bitterly to his friend on the telephone. I recall him making a joke that companies should look for, quote, intelligent, attractive, easygoing females when hiring. I was taken back by the comment and could not help but peek my head just around the corner and roll my eyes at him. He noticed my reaction, and after he got off the call, he immediately gets defensive and argued I should not have been eavesdropping on his private conversations. I just responded by telling him, well, you know what? I thought his comment was creepy and misogynistic. Again, defensively, he claimed that it was not misogynistic, and that guys should be able to make jokes with their guy buddies without being judged. More specifically, and I quote, I don't want to live in a world where I'm considered misogynistic for making jokes with my guy friends. I now asked him about the text I received to show me the termination letter, and he absolutely snapped at me, asking how could I ever accuse him of something like that, and told me that she's a liar. He also asked who sent the text message, but I did not want to get Jane in trouble for telling me, so I just told him to leave. He was mad and said, no, you got me up, so I'm staying. He continued to try to have an angry exchange while Nico just wailed in my arms. I told him I was not having this conversation, and tried to go into the spare room and close the door. He pushed it back open and came inside, and I ignored him, laid down with Nico, saying, everything's all right, my little peanut. Finally, the kiddo dozed off, and he was asleep on top of me. My husband just stood there, staring me down. Or at least I think. I closed my eyes and pretended he wasn't even there, and he stood there for a long time. Not talking, not moving, not looking at his phone. I mean, what the duck? This is extremely weird and creepy, right? It felt like he was trying to show his dominance or something. It was very scary at the moment, and I felt intimidated. But I didn't do anything. I felt frozen. This is the first time that he's done things that make me feel physically dangerous. I got out of the house with Nico to talk to Barry's family about the text, but they believe it's okay to hang out with coworkers. I told them that's not what happened. Stalking is not the same as hanging out, and it's flat out creepy. His mom replied that it's not really stalking if you know the person. His family beliefs are not normal for the country, and I'm pretty sure that they changed the situation where the other way around. I had a bad feeling that things were very wrong. So, back at home, while Barry was sleeping, I went through his iPad. I found what I should call creep shots. Photos of his coworkers wearing tight pants or short shorts, and I was just in shock. This is a horrible nightmare, and I could not stop feeling absolutely disgusted by my husband. He might be straight up creepy enough to be grabbing at his own coworkers, but this really disgusted me, and part of me truly considered breaking off of the marriage. What's crazy is I almost put it down after a few moments because everything else was super innocent and boring at first. I remember laughing at myself and thinking how silly I was even looking. That's when I scrolled to the pictures. Guys, most of the pictures are shaky, low quality, but always with a glimpse of an attractive woman. Upon looking at the collection, you might almost be fooled that the pictures were simply captured in error because of how random some of them were. The fact that 80% of them, it's just captured from the inside of his pocket. Oh, and I haven't even mentioned the worst part yet. The most recent pictures were at a company event, like I was right ducking there, and he still couldn't help himself to snap a little picture. I transferred a copy of these photos to my phone in case I needed it for a lawyer. Well, when I think about it, I feel like I just don't understand reality. I've been blindsided by my husband for years, and I thought he was just worked a lot, that he was burnt out and really miserable with his job, and he is a workaholic, but it was nothing more than a lie. Now that I had solid proof, I woke him up and confronted him again, and I made sure that I recorded everything. He panicked seeing the pictures and initially denied it, but I pressed him until he finally gave in, admitting he did not want to seem like a bad guy. I broke up with him on the spot, obviously, but he apologized and told me he understood if I wanted to break up, but he wanted to work it out, and I told him to sort everything out while I and Nico spend a night at a hotel away from him. He's willing to go to the personal and couples therapy, and I'm not sure if that's enough, but I'm also having a hard time letting go. I'm really torn on what to do. I love him, and I'm so heartbroken. I could not sleep last night at the hotel. I feel sick. Eating seems to take so much effort, and the only thing I can seem to do is shower, because I feel so disgusting knowing I've let him touch me after he did this. I'm also finding it very difficult to do my job today. I'm starting to regret all of this, and I wish that we could just go back to Saturday when I had no idea about it. I'm feeling so miserable, depressed, and cannot get out of this funk. I have almost a 2-year-old with this man. I'm scared. I'm scared for my family, our future. I keep trying to come up with the worst case if. Well, if anybody has any advice out there, I'm totally open to it. I don't even know how to begin dealing with this. I'm turning to you guys because I don't really have anyone in my life to ask for this kind of advice. Ask me 5 years ago what I would do in this situation, and I would have immediately said divorce because of how disrespectful and embarrassing that is, but now I don't know what to do. A divorce could bring added stress to me and Nico, but I don't know how I can trust my husband anymore. I'm also aware that I should stand up for the women he stalked. The thing is, I'm learning to be a strong woman, but right now in life, I've lived through so much pain. I don't know how much more I can handle. I really don't. Things are so difficult for me. I mean, what do I even think? But whatever I decide to do, I'll make sure to give an update and keep Nico safe. I plan on giving Barry a very firm boundary and talking to him about receiving therapy and bringing his mother to some of the sessions. If he decides that he isn't interested in getting better, I'll be looking more into divorce because if things don't start to change, I'm not sure how much longer I can put up with it. Update number 1. Hello, if any of you remember this, I made a post a few months about my husband who's misogynistic, creepy, and downright a bully. I posted and figured I'd get some responses and just turned off the computer. I'm extremely grateful that so many took the time to read and respond to this post. Thank you so much. On to the update. Since this post got a lot of attention, I forwarded it to Barry, and we decided to talk about it later in the day. He mentioned that he meant to speak to me earlier in the week, but could not get enough courage to do so. Anywho, now he told me it was an impulse, and he would never do it again. He feels ashamed of being who he is, regarding his own essence. I refused to forgive him unless he truly changed, but I did tell him that if he uses physical intimidation towards me and around Nico ever again, I'm going to pursue legal action. Fast forward 2 months and I find the same thing. More creepy photo shots of random women in the streets. When confronted, he talked about how it's his natural male hunger, and only does it to people that deserve it. He even decided to turn to a professional interviewer with a woman into a conversation about his fantasies. I felt like all the care and love I have for my husband just disappeared. I did not want somebody who stalks and materializes women. I see the way that he looked at me all weekend. It's not love. It's creepy. He looked at me like I was an object, like his next meal. And this is not just the person I fell in love with. I could not stand him or his predatory behavior. I just wanted out. So, I asked my friends to come and help me take my personal stuff, and I took them to my dad's place. My dad passed away last year, and he left his home and rental properties for my sister and I. My sister lives there, and it's better for my mental health to stay with her till things settle down a bit. I called the police on the emergency line for a standby. In Canada, you can ask the police to stand by while you collect your belongings so the domestic situation does not escalate. Yesterday, I had a woman reach out to me via Facebook to tell me that Barry was cheating. I don't know how she found me. I told her that we were separated, and I could not help but notice she was 22. I called Barry to tell him he needs to tell women that he's married and not misguide them. But he's refused to change, saying I just don't understand how hard it is for a man to date. When asked why he's seeing younger women, he said they're easier to train. I found the behavior disgusting because I was groomed and coerced when I was young, and I still get flashbacks. But you dare to question his authority as a superior, aka a man? I wanted to give him a chance to get better, but it breaks my heart that he'll never change. I'm tired, and I've cried inside a lot tonight. I'm thinking about what the future holds, but I think everything will be okay. As all of you advised, I need to give up on him for the sake of Nico, so I'm continuously looking up on Google for good divorce lawyers. I'll keep you posted. Update number 2. I'm once again so very grateful to each of you that you took the time to respond to me. I've been going through a really rough patch, and I've read and reread and read again each comment repeatedly, at first crying, but by now I feel a bit stronger and more hopeful. I appreciate the support. Now for the update. I met somebody at the gym. I love the attention, the care, the comfort he provides. Joe and I spent a lot of time together. Going to the gym, our favorite. Events, activities, dinner, dates, road trips, hiking, the beach. Everything my husband could not provide. Since we both work in the same career field and currently from home, I've been going to his home every weekday, and we work together and make our food together, and I've had this routine for 2 months now. Guys, I am in the best shape of my life, and I am happy. A couple days back, I was getting ready to go to Joe's house for the weekend, and my husband somehow knew about it, came to see me, and asked me to stop seeing Joe because he wants to be together again. He said that he got a mid-management job in a warehouse. I told him no. I finally put my foot down and said that he should either communicate a healthy divorce with me or I will fight him tooth and nail to get out. He tried grabbing my items and stopping me from going, but I managed to leave. Today, in the morning, he decided to show up at my work and demanded to see me since we were still legally married. As my employer was aware of the situation, they refused to tell him if I was at the workplace or not. I was, and asked him to leave. He did not. Security was called, and they could not use force to remove him, so he punched a guy there. So they threatened to call the utility company that he works for, and this man would be seen as a liability to any reputable firm if his behavior were to escalate, and coworkers became aware of it. He did not believe my employer could do it, but he just left anyways. When the day was over, I was heading outside the building and getting towards my car when my boss met me outside to, quote, take a walk. I thought I was dead then, but no. My boss is also incredibly frustrated with the situation, so he gave me the contact of his friend who happens to be a family lawyer. I was told to take the day, salary pay of course, and now I'm here. I told Joe that I asked Barry for a divorce and he asked me to move in with him. I'm going to do it. I just want nothing to do with that man anymore. Now I've written Barry on the bottom of my shoe because of Toy Story. Update number 3. I just want to thank everybody for all your love and good comments. It gave me a lot to think about, and so many of you said it's not a good idea to move on with Joe so soon after ending a long-term relationship. Well, I feel comfortable spending the majority of my time there. It's much better for us to have our separate places. Till I'm able to process everything, it's a major life transition. After Barry's little scene at my workplace got out, he was spoken with officially in his next shift at his work and was fired with immediate effect. His showing up at my work was seen by the utility company as a gross misconduct, and they also discovered why he was fired from his previous job. This week was very hectic. Barry kept calling me since Tuesday, saying nasty things about getting him fired, and you know what? He brought this upon himself. Barry also lied to my mother-in-law that he left the job as it was not the right fit for his skill set. But my mother-in-law wanted to keep his job, so she called his manager to see if they could just take him back to the warehouse. To her shock, they said he didn't quit, he was fired for poor work performance, causing trouble in another workplace. Oh yeah, and punching a security guard in the face. Mother-in-law called me and talked about this, slightly favoring Barry, but I ignored her, obviously. Yeah, mother-in-law, that's what you get when your son turns out to be an absolute, creep. She then went on to give me a sob story that Barry got into trouble recently after he got the number of some random girl in the neighborhood. She totally sugarcoated it, but this is what happened. Barry would keep texting this girl from different phone numbers after she would block him. Her dad insulted him on the phone, and after days of no contact, he sent her an inappropriate picture. This was it. She blocked him again, but this time got an idea. Took his number and leaked it on some hookup site in Pakistani. He definitely had that coming. He did not have a shred of proof that it was that girl who leaked his number. Perfection in its purest form. I hope he got hundreds of pictures on his number, 'cause that's the least that a-hole deserves. There's also this delicious part where he had to come across her in the streets or the grocery store for 2 weeks afterward, knowing she won. What do stalkers hate more than not being able to contact you? Being stalked themselves. She counter-stalked the stalker? To assert a bit of dominance, I guess. Power move. He eventually shifted to a new place. And for those reading my update, let's not normalize it for these pervs. Let's expose them if it's our closest relation, or at least make their lives crap for a day like she did. Barry is now having issues keeping someone. I heard from his close friend that women usually stop replying to him on applications, and he got ghosted or dumped a few times as soon as they find out about his past. They all report his profile and he got the sack. Awesome. Today in the morning I called the lawyer and we had a meeting on Monday morning. He even agreed to help me out at a discounted rate, as he owes my boss a few favors. He'll make sure that the divorce is granted soon, and he also works as a no-win fee, and believes we can win the case and get Barry to cover outstanding fees. Update number 4. Thanks for your support. I'm getting a bit overwhelmed trying to reply to everyone. It's been absurdly busy the last few months, but there's good news. I've taken the advice of many, obviously I left. Divorced Barry, doing well at my job, thanks, and yes, our kid's doing great. We have an excellent support system. My friends are awesome. More good news. Joe is there for me emotionally and physically. Even though his job demands a lot from him, he's always there for the big events for Nico when he can and is wonderful with him. While Barry does have visitation, he does not use it to visit, and if he ever stops paying his child support, I can pay all our bills with my job, no problem. I rebuilt my life as best as I could, and now I'm just sitting here stunned. I've heard of similar stuff happening, but never like this. Any ideas? Any explanations? I decided to talk to Jane, and I messaged her and asked how she was doing. She's fine and happy. She said she first did not want to tell me because she didn't want to break up what she thought was a perfect family, but she did it as she thought I deserved to know, and I thanked her for her heartfelt for telling me. I also spoke to the coworkers and asked about this. I apologize for the abruptness, but I want to make sure the people in my life are okay. I have to ask, did anybody, my family, friends, in my house ever make you feel uncomfortable or did anything inappropriate towards you? Same situation. He either used to stay back for work and make a move towards each of them or stalk them to their house. Barry was fancied himself as a real leader, but now that I know from his coworkers he wasn't. He set impossible tasks and literally yelled instructions while doing absolutely nothing in the office in the meantime. I told them that if they ever needed anything, I would do it. I also persuaded them to file charges against him. Most of them seemed to be considering it. I emailed a friend of a friend who's a criminal attorney, and he agreed to take this on. He said that getting as many coworkers as possible to testify against him will help prevent the investigation from becoming a he-said-she-said scenario. With the pictures I found on his iPad, my lawyer's confident that Barry will face the charges and eventually serve some prison time. Also, the harassment charge will follow him to his other job, so I'm sure he's screwed for life. We sent him a formal notice informing him of the impending legal action soon. He called me, and it sounded like he was absolutely freaking out. He low-key begged me to drop the matter and tried everything he could to change my mind. With no intention of doing so, of course, I told him that I might reconsider if he apologized to every woman he ever bothered. He agreed without hesitation, but I added in another thing. And I'll need the recording of it to know you followed through. He paused for a while and reluctantly accepted to do so. Within that day, he reached out to several women and expressed his regret for his sickening behavior. Well, after sending me the records, he called asking me to withdraw the notice, but I gave him a resounding no, and I blocked his number. He's a disgusting, reprehensible human being who thought he was invincible. He thought that he could walk all over people, bullying and belittling as he went. Well, he now realizes that nobody is invincible, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching his collapse. He only had himself to blame, honestly. So I saw a very interesting comment I want to discuss with you guys about today's story. One of the comments were mentioning, well, to be honest, quite a few of the comments were mentioning this, that they think OP is actually going to go back to her significant other. I would like to know your thoughts about that. They were saying how it was a red flag given off by OP, how she is just going so easily and will not just get away, completely cut him out of her life and just start over fresh. She's still making him do these demands like take videos apologizing to the girls, send it to me, I can forgive you, I can drop the law case, all that stuff is nonsense, needs to be cut out because the dude she's dealing with is a creepy, toxic loser. I want to know your thoughts about this story, guys. What exactly you would do if you were in OP's very weird, very unique position. Drop it downstairs in our comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. Thank you for joining me on today's video. I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!